Hello and welcome to episode number 4 of Casting Shadows. As always, I'm your host, Jeremy, here with AK. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Ready to talk about some magic.
Well, we have some interesting topics. I think we have quite a few interesting topics today. We have one topic that we're going to get to later in the show that I think me and you are most excited about. But first off, we're going to start off with the Star City Games Modern Philadelphia results.
Okay, that's the team open, correct? There was Pioneer, Standard, then Modern.
I think they had...
Oh, the Modern Classic.
It was the Modern Classic.
Okay,
yeah, the Modern Classic.
So we'll be discussing the Modern Classic and then briefly kind of tracing over the team open results too as well.
There was a couple interesting decks in there that finished in the top 10 that I was like, whoa, where did these come from? So we're going to go through the list a little bit. First place, Mono Red Prowess.
Okay.
They've been putting up results. Last time we talked about the Modern results, Mono Red Prowess was first and second. This time another first place finish. Ad Nauseam got second place.
I'm surprised by that. Fun fact, I've built Ad Nauseam completely, 100% done. Tier 1, like from the list, and I just never played it.
Nope.
I think I played it once, and then I was like, this is boring. Like, I think combo in Ad Nauseam demands a very specific player, and I'm not that player. I am kind of too slow on that one.
Continuing with the results here, Mono Red Prowess, another finish in third place. This one interested me. Fourth place, Mardu Pyromancer.
I don't know. Is this 2016,
That's what I was thinking. As soon as I saw that, I was like, what is
Late
going
2018? I don't know.
Wait until you see number 10.
Okay.
Fifth place, the new Heliod Company deck.
Awesome.
We were watching that a little bit earlier at that
Next, or at Nerd Range Games.
Yep.
NRG.
NRG in Indianapolis. Sixth place, Demir Wurza.
Okay.
I know how you feel about that deck.
I love Demir Wurza. I think it's a great deck, and if you're not playing Shadow, you should be playing Demir Wurza.
Seventh place, Mono Green Tron. Eighth place, Azorius Stoneblade. Ninth place, Neo Brand. And 10th place, Demir Mill.
Demir Mill is a deck that's near dear to my heart. It was actually the first modern deck I ever built. Saved up to get Polluted Deltas. That back then I was like, I only need 4 fetches, good enough. And I think that was my... It's one of those decks that you can win because people don't sideboard it or don't expect it when they're sideboarding and stuff like that. So for everyone who's wondering what my first modern deck was, it was Demir Mill. I was entranced by it. I had 4 Glimpse the Unthinkables in the main deck, like always, Hedron Crabs, Jace Phantasm sideboard. So it was a really fun deck. So that's kind of cool. I see it like, now actually doing something.
And this one had a little bit of an interesting twist. It seemed like it was a little less on the mill aspect of it because it did have the Glimpse the Unthinkables. Does not run any of that Breaking Entering card. Does not run any the 3 mana one that 4 lands. I forgot what that was called.
Oh, Field of Ruin? Are you talking about that?
No, the sorcery spell where you keep on going top of your library until 4 lands are revealed.
Mind Funeral.
Yes. For whatever reason. I play mill and yet forgot that card.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of mill spells that it did not have. It still had the Glimpse, like I said. It had Archive Trap. But it was more, let me kind of fill up your graveyard early, and then it was playing 4 Jace's Phantasms main board.
Oh, wow.
4 Vantress Gargoyle main board.
I remember I did see John Locke, too. I think John Locke was a much needed boost for those Demir Mill strategies because it's such a cool card, and it turns into a counterspell with a Terminate stapled onto it.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty soon with Mill. That first Archive Trap happens, and then basically it's turned out forever.
Yeah, you're able to counter anything.
You can counter Karn at that point. Karn liberated, so
That's
it's
pretty
really cool.
Disgusting to think about, actually. But yeah, it was more on that aspect. It was like those few mill spells, but it was a lot more control. After that, there's a lot of Fatal Push, Thought Seeds, I believe, was in there. It was an interesting deck. I think it was cool. So I thought, is there anything that kind of struck you about the results? Like we brought up the Mono Red Prowess, another 2 places, first and third. After last time we talked about results, first and second. Do you think, I know a lot of people talk about Amulet Titan as the best deck in the format. Do you think this one is clear-cut number 2, or do you think it could pass Amulet Titan?
I don't know. Amulet Titan's pretty hard to pin down these days because it's a very potent deck, and I feel like people are... I heard Ross Merriman say that in the first class, or the first team event about maybe 2 weeks ago. I forgot what city it was in. We talked about it, though. Amulet Titan was kind of overplayed because people were looking for the best deck, and Titan was just there ready to go. New upgrade, Dryad Elysian Grove, so it was just go-to So I feel like people are really just trying to play Amulet right now because they are under the impression it's the best deck, which it is. It is the best deck. I won't say. I misspoke. It's not an impression. It is the best deck at the moment. But like I said before in the last podcast, it is a very beatable deck. It is not something like KCI or Hogak where they get that lock on you and you're kind of just, okay, I can't do anything. Like, once Titan can run away at the game, yes, but like they're vulnerable to discard spells. They're vulnerable to counter spells. They die like everyone else to big threats on the board and everything. So, and like, yes, they have Field of Dead, but like, I've seen Dimir Wurza start running Field of Ruin in the main to just cut off that avenue. They only play one. You cut off Field of Ruin unless they have like Ramanop Excavator, which allows you to play. It's a Crucible Worlds attached to a creature. It's like a 2/3 Naga Shaman Snake or something, but it's a Crucible Worlds, and so unless they're playing that field is gone once it hits the graveyard. They're not able to get it back, and they're kind of stuck using just a normal Titan plan.
Okay, well, I was kind of just looking at the results, and it seems like a lot of decks that are not high up in the modern meta that did successful, and I think that part of the reason they just kind of went under the radar. And that's why they were able to be successful. Like, you haven't seen a whole lot of Mardu Pyromancer. I'm starting to see a little bit more now, but like in the modern meta, when you talk about the top decks, Mardu Pyromancer is not going to be mentioned.
No,
for the most part.
Mardu Pyromancer really was a deck designed to hate on a meta. It was that humans-filled meta, and Mardu Pyromancer excelled at taking care of it because Meddling Mage would name Fatal Push. Okay, I have Dreadbore, I have Terminate. I have a million other Lightning Bolt. I have a million Kulligan's Command.
Yeah.
I have a million removal spells. And then Faithless Looting was a very important part of that deck.
Mm-hmm.
You remove that and the deck suffers a lot. So, interesting enough, I did look at the list, and they're running no Young Pyromancer, only Seasoned Pyromancers, which I thought was interesting. But I do think this is kind of a one-of kind of thing. I wouldn't expect Mardu Pyromancer to come back from this. It's just too much. But I do have the results for the modern portion of the Team Open, if you're interested about hearing those.
Okay.
So, first place, Dimir Wurza, with Harlan Fear piloting it. Second place, Azorius Control, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Okay.
They are on just the three Snapcaster and one Vidalian click, too. No Stoneforge, so they're not like a Stoneforge blue-black, or blue-white base deck, which I know a lot of are. Just straight Azorius Control. And then third, fourth, fifth, sixth are all Amulet Titan. So a lot of Titans, yeah. I mean, it's a powerful deck. I do see in 12th place a lone Grixis Death Shadow deck. Ooh. And I am... Julian Grace Martin actually piloted this to success. He has the standard creature base, 4 Death Shadow, 3 Snap, 4 Street Wraith, 4 Gurmag Angler, 1 Royal Scions main. So I'm still in the Scions train. Jarnalock main as a one-of, and then he is on a 3 Skull and Tarn, 1 Blood Crypt, which we debated last week. And Anger the Gods in the sideboard, surprisingly enough. Okay. I think that's because of the Heliod Company decks popping back up. Most of them run pretty low toughness, and if you run into Dredge and Crabvine, you have a good sweeper that kind of just annihilates their board and then come back from it. So I think it's a pretty cool deck. I mean, obviously it's Grixis Shadow, but I mean, pretty cool sideboard in that sense. And congrats to Julian for being a representation of the Shadow community.
Exactly. So, just Dimir Wurza in this Philadelphia went 6th place. You said it went 2nd place there.
First place, actually.
Oh, 1st place there. Very good pilot. I know Harlan is a very good pilot of that. Do you think that this is emerging as a top contender?
I think Dimir Wurza is something you have to plan for, yes. Dimir Wurza is a deck that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Again, it's a very beatable best deck. I think those are the best decks for the meta. When you have a really good deck, but it's not, like, unstoppable. It's not Hogak level. It's not KCI. It's not, like, eggs or anything like that. Like, yes, it's an awesome deck, but you can beat it. You can beat it. Like, Dimir Wurza... It runs on a pretty tight-knit list. They have, obviously, Urza, High Lord Artificer, and then a boatload of blue and black counterspells or artifacts. That's essentially the deck. So, Mystical Dispute is an all-star against them. So is Ashiok, like we talked about last week. You hit them hard, you hit them fast. They're not able to come back from it. They're vulnerable to discard spells. And they have a combo, but they can the combo is a finisher. They're not all in like the old Grixis Warrior decks. So I think it's a real contender for the meta, and people need to be prepared for it when they're going to events. Dimir Wurza is not going anywhere. But like I said, I played against it many times now, and it feels fair. Like, I don't feel like, oh my god, I'm dying, or like, oh my gosh, my cards don't do anything. Like, no, like, I've won against them and I've lost against them. I think they're a pretty powerful deck, but is it nonstop Hogak level? Not at all. I think it's an awesome deck, and it's cool to see a blue-black deck have success in the meta without another color attaching to it. Like, Sultai or Esper and things like that. Just a cool blue-black control deck, which I've always wanted.
Yeah. I do think it is interesting. Like you said, it's not too impressive. Like, Amulet isn't too impressive. Dimir Wurza isn't too impressive. Like in the days of Hogak, instead of fine-tuning like your sideboard to Hogak, you basically had to make a whole new deck for Hogak.
Yeah.
Because it was just like these certain style of decks weren't able to keep up with it. And these decks like Amulet and Dimir Wurza, they kind of make you fine-tune your sideboard instead of having to find a deck that's going to be able to compete with that.
Yes.
And I think that's a really nice thing for the meta right now. I do think that, yeah, they are the top decks in the format, but they're not
impressive.
Not impressive, which is really nice.
Yeah. And I also wanted to say that, like, I agree. I liked your statement a lot, how you said you're not twisting your whole entire deck to beat it. You're just your sideboard. Remember when Phoenix used to play, like, 3 Surgical Extraction main because they had to beat Hogak, and people were playing, like, Rest in Peace? It was... Yeah, Azorius Control is playing Rest in Peace in the main deck. That's disgusting. That shouldn't be a thing. And when the meta is like that, that's kind of like a telltale sign that something is wrong and you need to fix it.
Exactly, because they're looking at their deck like, what do I put in here to beat this? But instead, like, now in this meta, you're looking at your sideboard like, what should I add to my sideboard that I could side in to help beat this deck? That's a completely different thing when you're running 4 ley lines. Like, I have to put this in the main board of my deck to even have a chance of beating this deck, and I still might not even beat it.
Yeah.
So it's just completely different. But I do like these decks being the top, more like the top of the format, and we do got to give some respect to Mono Red Prowess because it's been putting up the results. So
yeah, it's talk about a deck that I thought was dead because when that got hit, because that Mono Red Prowess used to be Mono Red Phoenix, which I loved. I actually played that deck a lot, and it was a really cool, just a straightforward burn deck with Phoenixes, yes, but also could just bolt you out of the game. And when a looting ban happened, I'm like, like, there goes Mono Red Prowess, like, or Mono Red Phoenix. Phoenix is gone, but they're like, okay, we're just going to go all in on this Prowess plan. And it's awesome. And I think that it's a cool way to combat Titan because they go right underneath it. Like, turn 1 Swift Spear, backed up by a billion burn spells on turn 2 and 3. Your Radiant Fountain for 2 life isn't going to really help you that much.
And you're basically, you're like pumping up your creatures, which is something that was like one of my very first decks, was like this really bad pump up deck spell with Kill Fiend, and
they're
just
actually
like,
running
it's really
Kill
fun
Fiend now too.
But then they're doing it in a way better way than I was,
yes,
I guarantee.
Yeah, we had our pretty garbage Kill Fiend decks, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was terrible. For anyone's wondering what it looked like, it was like 4 Kill Fiend, and that was it. We were like, we don't even need any air creatures. Just mulligan 2 get
like,
Kill
should
Fiend.
I put Swift Spear? I'm like, I don't think it's that good. I'm like, only +1/+1.
Little did we know.
But yeah, I'm happy with the format the way that it is right now. So we were talking a little bit before this about some of the like Dark Horse Modern decks. A couple podcasts ago, we thought about decks that could be underrated for this meta, and now that we've kind of watched the meta take shape a little bit, are there any Dark Horse Modern decks that you think are not talked about like Amulet Titan, or talked as much about as like Amulet Titan Mono Red Prowess, that you think are pretty good for this format?
So, obviously this would be kind of, it's not cheating, so to speak, because it is an Urza strategy, but it is not the blue-black strategy that we've seen. It's akin more to the combos before the Opal ban and before Oko, like the Grixis Warza decks. But this one's actually made by a gentleman who piloted last week at SCG Philadelphia. His name is Will Thompson, and he is the creator of Urza Breach in Modern. It's Urza Grixis Breach. And if you guys are unfamiliar with this deck, so basically they're taking Grinding Station, and they're taking a 0-mana artifact, along with Emery on the table, or not Emery, Underworld Breach. And so you loop Mox Amber or a Memnite or some 0-mana artifact you're able to cast over and over with Grinding Station on the battlefield, and you have Underworld Breach out, and it allows you to mill over your whole deck so you can cast the fastest Oracle and win, or you can mill your opponent out of the game. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of two avenues. I remember his list on SCG Philadelphia. Yeah, it was Philadelphia last week. He was running it, and game one he faced against Amon Titan. He just demolished it. Just if you don't interact with those with that deck, you're dead. Mm-hmm. Like, it's gonna run away with the game. And on top of that, it still has the Thopter and Sword combo, Thopter Foundry and Sword of the Meat combo. So if one combo doesn't work, they have another combo and they're ready to go. And I think it's a very powerful deck. And Underworld Breach is a broken Magic card. I think it's very powerful. It's kind of weird that a 2-mana red enchantment I'm saying is a monster, but it is. It's a very powerful Magic card, and I think this is such a quick combo, and it has a potential to turn into a mid-range deck post-board with Fatal Pushes and Thoughtseizes and Urzas. I think it's very potent, and I enjoy it a lot, and I think it's a pretty cool deck, and I would rate that as one of the Dark Horse decks in the Urza category. Again, it's a little bit cheating because it's not Dark Horse like something like Dimir Mill would be, or something like, oh, watch out for this deck. Like, no, people know what Urza is, but at the same time, when you go Mox Amber Grinding Station and you start milling yourself, people are wondering, like, what are you doing? So I thought that was kind of cool. Another Dark Horse deck, again, it still features a creature that's very prominent in today's meta, which is the Primeval Titan strategies, but this is Green-White Titan. And Green-White Titan is kind of cool because it features awesome white sideboard cards such as Celestial Purge, Path to the Exile, Rest in Peace, stuff like that that's able to really just give an extra push for your big Titans to get through. You know, because Path to Exile is pretty good against Grixis Shadow, I will say, because it hits all of our threats. So if they're worried about Shadow strategies, Path is pretty great. Annoying Dredge creatures, it hits. The Celestial Purges hits Liliana the Veils if they're going against Jund type strategies. So overall, those are my two picks for the Dark Horse decks: is Urza Grixis Breach and Green-White Titan. Those are like kind of like my underrated variants on the meta that I think people should check out.
Because I was even going to say, as you're talking about that, like you say that it does incorporate some of the cards that are towards the top in the format, but when you talk about Urza style decks, the first two that are going to come to mind are this newer Dimir deck that's been dominating, and Grixis Urza.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an underrated deck. More than likely nobody's going to be talking about that. So like I do like that. I think both are very interesting. That combo with Underworld Breach and all that, it just seems disgusting, and it seems like really fun when it does happen.
Yeah.
Unless you're on the other side of the table.
Then it's kind of just going right in your face. And well, like I said, Will Thompson is the creator of that deck, and you could check out his Twitter. His Twitter is at BillSieve, BILLSIVE. We'll leave his username in the description below. So if you want to check out, he probably has a lot more expertise in the subject than I do, because he's a creator of the deck. What about you, Jeremy? Do you have any Dark Horse decks you want to mention?
I do. I have one. Back in the Hogak days, Control was not really that prominent. It basically just got pushed out, kind of. And we haven't really seen Control be very good in a while. Mm-hmm. Before Hogak, it was definitely really good. I remember playing it a lot at our local game store. Yeah. And it was just when I was playing Death Shadow, and it was just hard for us to deal with. And then I haven't seen it in a while. I haven't seen anybody cast like a Jace the Mind Sculptor in a long time.
Azorius Control, like I said, obviously it showed up last weekend, which surprised me a lot. But Azorius Control is still a deck that's always constant, but it really ebbs and flows. It'll go down in the meta, it'll come back up, it'll go down again. And most have adapted to the Stoneforge Mystic package.
Exactly.
So they are still control decks, but they're more a faster clock to finish the game, which I appreciate with Stoneforge Mystic. But yeah.
So the deck that I was looking at earlier is this Sultai Snow Control.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it incorporates Ice Fang Kotal, which has been going basically in any of these control style decks the new Euro, Titan of Nature's Wrath.
Okay.
2 Snapcaster Mage, and they're also running Tarmogoyf in here, which I do like because you talked about before in our last podcast. Control just has a hard time closing out the game.
Yeah, for sure.
So being able to have a Tarmogoyf can easily help close out the game. That's just it's a very strong creature. They're also running 2 Jace Mind Sculptor. They're being able to take power with some of these powerful black cards like Fatal Push, Inquisition, Thoughtseize, Assassin's Trophy, and then I'm looking here. There's a ton of counters. 2 Drown in the Lock, 2 Archmage's Charm, 2 Force of Negation, 2 Cryptic Command.
Jeez.
So obviously,
Are you
control.
resolving
They're
anything?
going to be basically like you're going to be playing that, and they're running the 3 colors, but they're also running Arkham's Astrolabe to be able to filter through the mana. I think it's just a cool kind of underrated deck that utilizes the snow mechanic, which I thought was an interesting mechanic when it was first announced.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a strategy that before Modern Horizons was a thing to spread.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
the only thing that took advantage of snow permanence, really.
And they finally started to target it a little bit more. And the sideboard looks good. They're utilizing Dead of Winter, which is a great snow card.
Yeah, should be Toxic Deluge in Modern Horizons, but
Yes.
they gave us Dead of Winter. Thanks, Wizards.
Obviously, utilizing Veil of Summer. Mystical Dispute, which we talked about, is a great sideboard card for Grixis Death Shadow. Just an overall great card. This deck looks really fun to pilot. I would love to be able to pilot it, but I'm looking at some of these prices, and it's kind of hurts me to read a little bit because
Those Verdict Catacombs will get you.
Verticanical, Tarmogoyf, Euro's up there. Jace is still 195 for 2 copies.
Yeah, I mean, granted, Tarmogoyf has gone down tremendously.
Which is really nice.
It's about $30 to pick up a copy of the cheapest copy on TCG Player right now. I believe is going for somewhere around $30. It's the Modern Masters 2017 edition. So definitely, if you guys are looking to pick up Goyfs, now is the time. You know, we actually saw this deck, I believe, on Nerd Rage Gaming for their Indianapolis tournament going on right now. And his list was running Thoughtscour, which I thought was kind of cool.
I did like that.
Because easy way to fill out the graveyard for all your juicy targets with Tarmogoyfs and stuff like that, which I thought was kind of unique.
And then I do like the land, the Mystic Sanctuary.
Disgusting.
This one does not have the Deprive lock in there, but it's still a disgusting way to play this and just whatever counterspell just adds another counterspell basically because you're able to bring that back, put it on top of your library, draw it the next turn, and continue to just counter out
Also,
your opponent.
You can counter a Cryptic and then bounce. So counter bounce Mystic is pretty disgusting. So you can build your own Deprive in that sense, which is pretty nasty.
So yeah, it looks like a very strong deck. I do like the addition of Tarmogoyf as a way to
Close
another
the game.
alternate win con
Yeah.
instead of just controlling out the opponent, but just a way to utilize snow. I think it's really cool. I do like that archetype. So
It looks like kind of like the old Oko shells minus the artifacts and Urza's almost.
yeah, all they're running is Arkham's Astrolabe. That's the only artifact. So
Yeah. No, I think it's a solid deck, and it kind of looks like a Blue Jun, to be honest. Just a pile of good cards in the respective colors, and they're really pushing the snow mechanic to help eke out games. And I think it's a cool deck for sure. And if you guys are interested in a snow mechanic that doesn't revolve around Urza, this seems like a good deck to check out.
And then these 3 decks that we're talking about, either the picture of the deck will be in the video or it'll be in the description, so that if you guys are interested, you're going to be able to look at these decks. And
Yeah. Also, just Google it too.
Exactly,
Google the respective deck name / MTG Goldfish or something like that, and it should pop up. And then, or even put the hashtag on Twitter, and you're bound to find something.
So this next topic is something we alluded to a little bit earlier in the podcast that we're kind of excited to talk about, and it includes Death Shadow, which is obviously our favorite archetype. Look at the name of our YouTube or SoundCloud, all that.
You don't say.
So we want to talk about Death Shadow, Grixis Death Shadow, and we're going to start off with Serum Visions in GDS because it is such a split conversation. There's people that are like, yeah, like it needs to be in there, or there's other people who are like, nah, like I don't want any copies in here. Like it's not a good deck or not a good card. So I want to start off with you. What do you think about Serum Visions in GDS?
Wow, talk about a card that is dividing in the GDS community. Gosh, I would say Serum Visions has been around, first of all, since the inception of the deck. Since GDS started, 4 Serum Visions were in there to help. Like it was like a mid-range deck, and Serum Visions was the glue that held it together to go find your pieces, go find Death Shadow, go find Gurmag Angler. and that intrigued me a lot. Like I remember sitting down and playing with people and they had Serum Visions after Serum Visions. If GDS wasn't starting off with a discard spell, they were starting off with a Serum Visions. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, ubiquitous with GDS. And then we saw the slow move away from Serum Visions into Bauble and Street Wraith and Thoughtscour as the heavy lifters of the deck. Thoughtscour was always in the deck, but it wasn't viewed as the heavy lifter. It was viewed as the secondary for Gurmag Angler. And Serum was your main tool to find your threats. So now the GDS community is either running 1 to 2 of Serum Visions in their main deck, or they're running none. You're talking to the guy who spent $30 on the Seeing Vision set and got ripped off with those foils. How they look like skateboard ramps, by the way, if everyone's wondering what they look like. I could invite Tony Hawk over and he can do some great moves on those things, how bad they are. I put them in a textbook for like a month, and they're still not that great. Anyways, I digress. Serum Visions right now, if you had asked me, does it belong in GDS? I would say yes, but no. I know that's a pretty of a cop-out answer, but I feel like if we're running Serum Visions, we're running a one-of, right? At that point, does it matter as a one-of? But I don't know. It's so divisive because Serum Visions does a very important job in the deck, and it helps you find... You're seeing 3 cards. You're drawing 1 card in the blind. But that Scry 2, that could be the difference between you finding that threat you need on top, or you finding 2 fetch lands and you need, I need to bottom these, and draw a threat, or finding that important land drop that could lead you to actually being able to fight in the game. So for me personally, I'll go back on my cop-out answer, and I will say that Serum Visions belongs in GDS, but in very low quantities at the moment. In the build that we have now, in the Bauble build, which is a standard go-to for GDS, I would say it should be no more than a one-of. I don't think it should be 2 in there. I think 1 Serum Visions is fine. Now, what about you, Jeremy? What do you think about Serum Visions? I know that you personally are not a fan of it, pretty much.
Yeah,
GDS.
It's just such a slow, that sorcery. When you look at all the powerful card draw spells that Blue has ever produced, you start talking about some of the names.
Ponder.
It's preordained. Serum Visions just really never comes up in that list. And I think I would argue to say that it could belong in the deck, but I would also say that it is absolutely not needed at the same time. If you're running 1 to 2 copies, I would prefer you run 1. I think 1 would be okay. But at the same time, you can easily get along. Because back in the day, I used to run 4 Serum Visions. That was no Mishra's Bauble and all that.
Yeah.
That was before that, and I was like, Serum Visions is awesome. I love being able to draw a card, scry the next 2.
Yeah.
And then I play with Mishra's Bauble, I'm like, why would I need Visions?
I know, it's 0 mana to draw you a card in a minute, and with all those fetch lands and Street Wraiths, we can build our own Preordain. Like you said, when you talk about the top dogs and blue cantrips, it's Ponder, Preordain, and Brainstorm. That's the holy trinity of blue cantrips. We have none of those.
Yep.
We have none, and it's sad because I feel like we shoot Ponder into the modern meta, and GDS is it. I feel like it would be we're returning back to the slower builds, but it'd be so much more consistent. We shoot Brainstorm and forget it. We're the best deck. Well, granted, I think Modern Miracles would have to interject on that one with Terminus. But Serum Visions, my analogy for it, right? We're modern, and Legacy has all the great cantrips, right? You're kind of like that kid on the block who has a generic cereal, right? You have chocolate O-Puffs, and your neighbor has Cocoa Puffs, right? They have Ponder, and you have Serum Visions. That's it. It doesn't matter. They're effectively the same. They're both blue cantrips, right? They taste the same. They're both chocolate cereal. But at the end of the day, Cocoa Puffs is better because it had that higher quality. When you get it, comes in a box, not a bag. Also, by the way, I'm not talking trash about bag cereal. All through my upbringing, I grew up on bag cereal. My mom always shopped at Aldi. We always got chocolate O-Puffs or Cheerio O-Rings. They weren't even Cheerios. They were just like Grainos. You know, instead of Captain's Crunch, it was Colonel's Crunch. You know, stuff like that. So, again, if you grew up like that or you're still eating stuff like that, I still buy bag cereal because it was $4 cheaper. So I'm not knocking you or anything. But when it comes to modern, we are that generic brand with Serum Visions, and having not having Ponder or Preordain or Brainstorm really does hurt, and the quality of the cantrip is greatly reduced because we see 3 cards, yes, just like Brainstorm, just like Ponder, but we see them in such a wonky manner. Why are we drawing in the dark and then scrying too? Like when I first saw Serum Visions, I was like, when I first started playing Magic and Modern, I'm like, shouldn't Serum Visions be reversed? And I scry 2, then draw a card? And someone was like, yeah, we have that card. It's banned. I'm like, okay. You know what? I feel like, please unban Preordain. You know, like Preordain would be fantastic. Would it be too broken? I don't think so. I think Phoenix is essentially dead. I think Storm, if it gets it, so what? They're a Storm deck. Of course they're going to run it. But they're just going to swap out Serum Visions and put Preordain. If anything, they might run both. You know.
And here's the thing about Preordain. Sorcery speed.
Yes.
Scry 2, draw a card. You compare that with Once Upon a Time, instant. Could be cast for free. Look at the top 5, grab a creature or land. Comparing those two, it's like, why is that banned?
I don't know. I think it was banned because it was banned in the days that Storm was a monster. Storm is still a very good deck, I think. I think it's an underrated deck, actually. But I do not think it's the power level that it once was, running like those crazy ritual spells. You know, it had Cataxian Probe, you know, like stuff like that. Like, it was a nuts deck, right? But now we have the ability to fight Storm quite easily with Stubborn Denial, with Force Negation. It's not going to be a crazy deck because you print Preordain. And who else would run it? Blue-White Control and Stoneblade strategies and probably Grixis Death Shadow strategies. You know, like, is that bad? You know what I mean? I'm sick of my bag cereal. Give me some name brand. I want a good cantrip. Give us Preordain. You know what? I remember I saw a fan-made Brainstorm that was supposed to come out in Modern Horizons. Someone was like, oh, it's leaked. And I'm like, this isn't real. And for a moment, I believed it was real. And I was like, wow, Brainstorm in Modern. I kind of just, like, looked at and I heard, like, flutes in the background, like, how magical that would be. And then I'm like, oh, no, that would never happen. Because people are too scared of giving blue these powerful cards. But, hey, Veil Summer, here you go. Once Upon a Time, here you go. You know what I mean? Like, Brainstorm is busted for sure. There's arguments that shouldn't even be in Legacy. People argue, but it's so much a part of it that we could never get rid of it in Legacy. So bringing it to Modern would be opening Pandora's box. You know what I mean? It would probably be the go-to cantrip 100%. That being said, I would love it still. It would be fantastic, and I'm perfectly fine with opening up Pandora's box. But so if you had to pick a cantrip, Jeremy, besides Brainstorm, we'll leave it between Ponder and Preordain. What would you pick if you're a Grixis Death Shadow player and you're able to unban one card? And keep in mind, you'll have access, yes. Blue-White Control will have access. Ban Stoneblade, Storm. So keep in mind, realistically, what do you want?
I think Preordain would be fine in the Modern meta. I think if they unbanned it, people would be like, okay, whoa, like, we're unbanning this. And then as it progresses, they'd be like, oh, okay, well,
it's like Jace.
This is fine. Jace and also Stoneforge Mystic, like, people had it banned and they're like, man, this card is powerful. And they let it come back, and it's starting to find a little bit of a footing right now, but it's still not like this monster that everybody thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very good deck, but it's not the best deck.
Yes.
And it's a very fair deck. So that's why I think Preordain. I think Ponder might be a little bit too. I guess strong. I mean, if you bring it in when you have Once Upon a Time, like, it might look fine, but I think that just sets a bad example of being able to look 3 deep and then draw a card.
And then shuffle if you don't like it and still draw a card. Yeah.
So I think that's a little bit too much for what we want to do with the Modern meta, because we don't want the power levels to get too crazy.
Yeah.
Even if it is just a card draw spell, it's just like that's starting to push a boundary that I don't want to be pushed.
Yeah.
And then have it be a call for ban 2.0.
Yeah.
I think Preordain would be fine. Because I'm even just Serum Visions. Like, I wish it was good. I'm just thinking about, like, the old turn 1.
Remember that? Remember those days in GDS?
Yeah,
Turn 1
it's
Serum
just...
Vision. Like, gonna go manipulate my deck. Like,
yeah, you figure like it's doing so good, but it's just...
now
Because
it's just
also with turn one Death Shadow, it's like, right now without Serum Visions, I'm able to bobble, do all those tricks. You look at yours, look at mine.
Street Wraith.
Do all that Street Wraith. And then I can play a Thoughtseize to help progress it. Now it's like, okay, do I go towards Visions or will I go towards Thoughtseize? Now that turn 1, you have to pick between one, so it's a little bit harder. I do want to ask, if Preordain were to get unbanned, how many copies do you think GDS would run? I don't think they would go towards a full play set. Do you think that, obviously that would weed out Serum Visions, everybody would be put that in the shelf, but I don't see it being like 4 or 3. I think maybe 2 top. I think it still could be in that flex spot where you run 1 to 2 copies. What do you think?
I think so for sure. I think that Preordain is a 1 to 2 of, similar to Serum Visions right now in that slot, would be appropriate. Granted, I would like to fool around with a more of the older mid-range styles. Playing 18 lands, maybe like a full set of Preordain, just like, kind of my little experiment to see how that would go. But I do not think it would be like Brainstorm or Days printing like, oh, that's like a 3 or 4 of right into Grixis Death Shadow or something, I mean, like I said, so like back to the core of the debate, which is, does Serum Visions belong into GDS? I think that like I'm kind of on your camp. Like, yes, as a 1 of, it's fine, but if you cut it for a John the Lock or another push or an extra card or a bolt, is it going to break the deck? I don't think so. I think that Serum Visions is hotly contested because it is a way to find our threats. I think that's important. I think obviously we can't win without that aspect of the game. We have to go digging for those threats. The deck is... I saw Zach Craner. I was talking with him on the Discord, and he said, the deck is inconsistent. Serum Visions makes it consistent. Therefore, play Serum Visions, right? Pretty simple.
Straightforward.
It was pretty straightforward and simple. And while I agree with that, yes, the deck is inconsistent. I feel like playing Serum Visions isn't the way to do that. It's the best way that we got. Like, if that's your only goal is to make Grixis Death Shadow consistent, and it is a very large goal, I am okay with sacrificing those percentage points for a quicker angler or for my deck to be more leaner and meaner, so I'm able to win quicker. So then again, though, I could draw that 4th Fatal Push and be like, I wish this was Serum Vision so I can go find my 3rd land drop. So that could bite me in the back real quick. So Serum Visions, I believe, is okay as a 1 of. That's where I stand. You should not be playing more than 2, and that's my opinion. Again, if you're paying 3, 4, go at it, man. That's on you. Like, that's awesome. Let me know how you're doing, by the way, though. I want to know. I'm curious. If you're racking up those 5L leagues with 4 Serum Visions in your GDS deck, let me know, please. I want to take a look at that list. But that being said, in my not professional opinion, yeah, like I'm a professional player. I said professional. I can't believe it. I apologize to anyone who kind of like was like, professional. Who is this person? I'm not professional. I just been playing the same deck for a long time. In my opinion, as a Grixis Death Shadow pilot who has been playing for a long time, I would say 1 Serum Visions is okay. No more than 2.
I'm kind of on that train too. If you're running 1 Serum Visions, I'm not going to be like, whoa, like, why are you running that? If you feel it's good in your deck, then obviously run it in your deck. You don't have to run everything exactly as you see professional people doing. Yeah. Because different situations require different cards, so you don't need it. I personally don't run it. I feel like it's kind of a misfit, I guess. I've never been a huge fan of 1-ofs. Except for cards that help progress it. Like, I'm running 1 Colligan's Command. That could be a humongous difference maker. Being able to grab a Death Shadow from my graveyard, make you discard, or hit you with 2, or whatever. I have 1 Royal Scions. That could be a complete game changer. I start to filter through my deck, or I make Angler into a 7/5 with Trample. Or I keep on going up there, and then I eventually ultimate, and that kind of finishes it. The 1 Serum Visions... it's not really a game changer to me. Yeah. It's a complete, like, when you look at Colligan's Command, you look at Royal Scions, and you're like, Serum Visions? It's kind of down there a little bit. I just feel like it doesn't fit because we're more of like a tempo-based. We want to Thought Scour, Mishra's Bauble, let's fill up the graveyard, get a Gurmag Angler, have them try to deal with that while we're progressing our life total. Here's a Death Shadow, draw Serum Visions. Like, it's more of like a mid-range kind of style. Yeah. Like if you're running 4 Serum Visions, you're not going to be running any Bobble, I think, because then you're going to be more of the mid-range game plan, like let me put in more Kolaghan's Command, that kind of style. So if you're having 4 Mishra's Bobble, to me, I wouldn't run the 1 Serum Visions, but if you're running 1, I don't think it's going to completely hinder. Like if you're running 1, I don't think your win-loss percentage is going to go down
for sure
significantly. But that anything more than 1, then I'm kind of starting to look at it like, what are you doing? But like if you're running it, like I'm not gonna, like don't go on my opinion. If you're finding success with it, obviously, then keep on running it. But just in my opinion, I don't think you should do any more than 1, and I don't think it's a complete game changer that you really need it in the deck.
Yeah, no, I agree with your opinion when you said that it's not a game changer, right? You draw your Kolaghan's coming out the top deck, you draw your Royal Scions, and you slam it and it resolves. It kind of pushes the game in your favor at that point. If you have a Stoneforge Mystic and a Battle Skull on the board, and I go Kolaghan's Man, 2 to that, destroy that, I have pushed the tempo so much
2 for 1.
In my favor. If I have a Royal Scions, let it resolve and you have no pressure and it starts ticking up, that ultimate goes off, I'm winning the game almost, like on the spot, Like I'm going to do 7 damage if I have 3 cards in hand right to your face, or I can even keep on start hoarding the cards, or hoarding more cards, so I even do more damage to you. And drawing that many cards in a deck with powerful spells is fantastic. Again, in my professional opinion, again, I'm so sorry I called myself professional. In my personal opinion, I think Serum Visions is a important one of, but not super, super important. Like if it could be more important to you, but I think that if you got rid of it, like you said, and you focus on the high impact cards who are very impactful on the game. Oh, congrats, AK. I said they're high impact and impactful. But I meant like, you play them and they're probably going to run away with the game if they resolve, or you can start flash. If you snap Kolaghan's Command, that's awesome grinding value. But again, like Serum Visions, I guess I'll play it. Like you said, if it was an instant, boom, I think it would be one of them for sure.
I think that would definitely be a bigger concern or bigger discussion if it was an instant speed. That sorcery speed, because like that first turn play, it's like, do I really want to go Serum Visions over Thoughtseize? I'd rather look at their hand. But now I have this Serum Visions that doesn't really progress me as I go later in the turns.
Yeah.
So it's like, it just kind of defeats the purpose, I think, a little bit.
Bobble is awesome because it allows you to do what we want to do on turn 1 without sacrificing one for another. We're able to Thoughtseize, look at your hand, and draw a card via Bobble. So max information in our favor, and we're doing the 2 things that we love the most in Shadow. Dismantling the opponent's game plan as well as advancing our own by drawing cards. And so I think that's an awesome tactic that we employ. Like I said, though, back to Serum Visions, 1 on my part. And if you really have to play more than 1, just play 2. Please God, don't play 3. But then again, if you guys are running away with those 5-0s, let us know. And I'm really curious to see what those lists look like. But that brings me to my next question. Do you think Kolaghan's Command and Royal Scions are pretty much staples now and we should be running one ofs in the deck?
I definitely love the 1 Royal Scions. I love being able to either play it if I don't have a threat and it resolves. Now I'm going to start filtering through my deck, and while doing so, not only does it help you filter, which is really nice for Death Shadow because you have that problem of going through your deck to find things, but you're also putting something in the graveyard to either possibly snap it back, or possibly just use that, I got a useless land in my hand, I'm going to put this in my graveyard. When I find a Gurmag Angler, that's just going to help me play it later. The Royal Scions, just like every mode on it, is powerful basically at any given time. There's not a mode where it's like, that's not really that good for GDS, but this mode is really good. Yeah. It's just like every mode on there is applicable to GDS. Kolaghan's Command, such a strong card. One of the things I was just going to say about Serum Visions, it's that blind value. Like with Kolaghan's Command, with Royal Scions, you know the value you're going to get. You know the line you're going to play. Serum Visions, it's completely blind. You're going to play it, and you have no idea what you're about to draw.
Yeah.
There's been instances where I draw the card that I needed off of Serum Visions. And I'm like, yes, this feels awesome. But then other times I play it, and I just grab a land. And it's like, was it really worth playing at this point? So you really get value off of Kolaghan's Command, off of Royal Scions. I think they're important pieces of the deck. I was on the 1 Royal Scions, 1 Drown in the Lock in the main.
Mm-hmm.
But I've since switched that Drown in the Lock to the side to play Culligan's Command, because I think just all those different modes are
very powerful.
very powerful. If I have one of my biggest complaints with Thought Scour sometimes, I've had some really bad Thought Scours where you're like, all right, end of turn, I'm going to do this Death Shadow Gurmag Angler. Now I'm going to draw this, and it's like
a bobble.
Like, oh, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I really need a threat right now. Mm-hmm. Culligan's Command helps ease that pain a little bit when you see it go in the graveyard. You're like, because before you're like, oh, well, that card's useful or useless.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll draw Gurmag Angler and just delve it away. Mm-hmm. Now with Culligan's Command, you can end a turn or upkeep, just make them discard a card in their hand, grab back whatever threat that you have in your graveyard, and I think that's just really powerful. What do you think?
So I like what you said, how Serum Visions is blind, and people will be like, well, we're playing Thought Scour and that's blind too. But Thought Scour, it's like a trade-off. We're willing to be blind because we need those 3 cards for Gurmag Angler. Mm-hmm. It's Dark Ritual for Gurmag Angler in reality. So that's why we're willing to sacrifice. And we have Snapcaster as well. You know, Thought Scour, you mill over that Stubborn Denial you need, boom, you can flash it back now, and it's awesome to use that to fill your graveyard. So we're willing to make that sacrifice with Thought Scour. Then again, like you said, I've had some terrible Thought Scours. It's hurt sometimes. I need a land. Oh, here comes fetch land in the graveyard, fetch land in the graveyard, draw a Gurmag Angler, and I have 3 in hand with like barely anything in the graveyard now. I got 3 cards though. Boom, thing Thought Scour. But like I need that land to cast my spells too. So, like I said, that having Thought Scour be blind, we're sacrificing it. But Culligan's Command eases that pain a little bit. Because we're able to, I'll Thought Scour. Okay, there's a Gurmag Angler. But hey, I got Culligan's Command. If I draw into that, I can go grab it back and I'll be okay. And it's a really grinding value, which I appreciate it. I actually was on the 2 Culligan's Command train before Scions got printed, because I was very committed. Very, very committed to 2 Culligan's Command. Because I was like, you know what? I need to get my threats back. If I'm running 4 Thought Scour, I really do need to buy my threats back. But Royal Scions, like you said, it's such an impactful card that I'm willing to cut 1 Culligan's Command, so I'm able to run 1 more Royal Scions, to help impact the game tremendously. So 1 Culligan's Command is fine, and then 1 on the side usually is pretty standard. Same with the Royal Scions, 1 in the main, 1 on the side. I do wish for a time and place when we were back to 3 Stubborn Denial. I miss 3 Stubborn Denial. I know that seems kind of funny, but 4 sometimes irks me, especially when the Humans player pops up again, and you're like, man, I really wish I didn't have 3 of these.
Playing with 56 cards now.
Yeah, I know. It's sad. But then again, I run against a blue-white controller, or blue-white player, or the Titan player with 1 billion non-creature spells, and I'm able to stub them to oblivion. It feels fantastic. Like I said, Serum Visions is a hotly debated card within the GDS community. Just the GDS community, by the way. The 4-color version, they don't care about it. Mardu doesn't care about it, obviously. Grixis Green doesn't care about it. Like Esper, I don't. IRP Esper, press F. I don't think that community exists. But when it comes to the GDS community, Serum Visions will be the Civil War, Captain America, Iron Man type scenario, where people will either love their Serum Visions or hate it. Personally, I think if we ever return to a mid-range type build, a more slower build, I would definitely jam for Serum Visions. I think it's a very great card in those battles. And that's what gave it its edge over decks like Jund and stuff, where they struggled with that late game finding the threat thing. Serum Visions were able to dig deep to find, So, again, I just really wish we had Pyridane. That'll be my closing thought.
So another thing that's been kind of hotly debated a little bit in the GDS community, a lot of people were running 4 Fatal Push. Some of them run 3 Fatal Push. That's kind of opened up, if you're dependent on what you're running 4-3. If you're running 3, it opens up another flex spot. What do you think about 4 Fatal Push or 3 Fatal Push and maybe another removals card, possibly Drown and Lock, possibly Terminate? What do you think about that, or would you just keep with the 4 Fatal Push?
Okay. So usually if it's 3 Fatal Push, then they have 1 Serum Visions, most likely. But if you don't like Serum Visions and you're thinking, what do I put in that spot? The generic answer would be Drown and Lock, because Drown and Lock usually is it's like a 5th Stubborn Denial. Also, it is a fatal, like a 5th or a 4th removal spell. So you're able to fill in that void of Fatal Push. And I like it a lot. I think it's a solid card drawn and lock for sure, and it's awesome when it works. That being said, I like Terminate because the Titan decks are quite prevalent right now, and having an instant speed answer to a giant 6/6 trampler with haste, thanks to hand war battlements and stuff like that, is very important. Then again, people don't like Terminate these days, so I think Bolt is a pretty good card in that spot too, because Veil of Summer decks are quite a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
And Bolt just kind of laughs at that and like, no, I'm gonna kill your creature, or I'm gonna do that extra 3 damage to your face. And Bolt's a card when it gets milled over, it's never a bad thing because you can always snap Bolt it back, and that feels fantastic. So my 3 answers for that, I would either say run 1 John the Lock, or Terminate, or Lightning Bolt. But if you guys really want that 4th Fatal Push, go ahead. That's fine with me. I think Fatal Push is a fantastic card. I'm just having a little difficulty lately with triggering Revolt against Titan because yes, we can save our fetch lands. We have 1 million of them. Yes, we have our baubles, but we want to be so quick. Sometimes we can't afford to sit on the fetch land when we really need that extra mana. And they slam a Dry Elysian Grove. It kind of is like, oh, okay, and you can't even bolt it because it's a 2/4. So that's why I think Terminate or John the Lock kind of would fill that void. What about you, Jeremy? What do you think?
As of right now, I'm still on the 4 Fatal Push, but I also haven't ran Death Shadow to the tournament a little bit. The last time we went, I was doing Crabvine just to kind of change it up a little bit. So that was kind of like after the meta changed a lot. So I'm going to be playing it soon, so I'm going to see how the meta has really changed for Grixis Death Shadow and whether I'll continue with the 4 Fatal Push or maybe go down 3. Because there was a list I pulled up here. They were doing what you said. They went down to 3 Fatal Push. They're already running the 2 Kolaghan's Command, or the 1 Kolaghan's Command, 1 Royal Scions as those 2 flex spots. That's why I said 2. Mm-hmm. And then in that place of the 4th Fatal Push, they're running the 1 Drown in the Lock. It's a very strong card. I do like that card. So yeah, as of right now, I'm on the 4 Fatal Push, but I'm kind of thinking, we talked about it on the podcast, the top 3 decks possibly right now, or some kind of Titan style deck, some kind of Dimir Wurza or something, or Mono Red Prowess. Now, Fatal Push against Mono Red Prowess, all-star.
Yeah.
Like in that kind of matchup, I would want 4. And then you look at Primeval Titan, and it's like some of those enablers, like you said, the Dryad. I need something to be able to trigger Revolt. They slam a Primeval Titan. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I got a Fatal Push. That's not going to do
anything. Or
anything.
you're going to try to kill it in combat with a Death Shadow, or perhaps a pumped up Gurmag Angler.
Which is something you don't really want to do, because then you might be trading. Because like if you pump it up with Royal Scions, your Angler's only a 7/5. You're going to be able to kill their Titan. First strike. Okay.
So yeah, that's a great scenario.
That is a great scenario.
That scenario happens. Awesome. What sucks though is whenever that thing attacks, here comes those 2 lands that trigger those Valakuts, and that they are able to play now with no mountains in the deck, which I think is crazy. The fact that Simic Titan is playing a card that was designed to be like, okay, if you play this card, you have to have tons of mountains in it. Like, that's what the people who sat down to create a Valakut, like, awesome card, but you gotta play a bunch of mountains. And then, Dryad Elysian Grove is like, what? No, you don't. You can play this super powerful card as an alternate way to finish the game. Just 2 of, or maybe a 1 of your deck when it comes to Valakuts, which is kind of crazy.
So yeah, it definitely struggles against Titan. You're kind of looking at it then. And then we talked about Dimir Wurza, sorry. You got to be able to, again, trigger something to take out Urza, because that's 4 mana. And then also, that's kind of their only creature. So now you're sitting on 4 Fatal Push. Like, obviously, in that scenario, taking out Urza with a Fatal Push is going to be great.
Very important.
But at the same time...
Besides the constructs, because if they have Thopters on the board, wasting Fatal Pushes on them...
that feels horrible.
That feels horrible. Especially, that's like Desperation mode, or you really need to get those blockers out of the way. Because in that case, I want more counter magic against Dimir Urza versus like creature removal for sure.
So yeah, obviously in that scenario, John and the Lock would be a better situation instead of the 4th Fatal Push. So like I said, as of right now, I'm running 4 Fatal Push, but as I see the meta take shape, I'm kind of starting to see why people are starting to switch away from that 4th Fatal Push. Like we talked about those top 3 decks. They could be the top 3 decks in the format right now. I think they're very close, but like it just, Fatal Push does not feel particularly good against Titan. Does not feel particularly good against Dimir Wurza, but it feels good against Mono Red Prowess. At the same time, the decks that I've faced, more of the Wurza style decks, more of the Titan style decks, I haven't even really ran into mono red prowess as much. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, yeah, that 4th Fatal Push just does not feel particularly good. So if you're on the 4 Fatal Push, like I am as of right now, it's still not a bad choice.
Yeah, it's a generically good choice.
Because you're gonna obviously face decks outside of
it's easy
the 3 that we talked to. Exactly.
Trim it, trim it on the 3, put another card in, kind of thing. So it's a great card to kind of like, experiment with and that kind of thing. So like if you don't know, if you're torn, like what do I put in? Just put the 4th Fatal Push for sure. It's a generically good answer to put in there.
And then if you're running the 3 and you're trimming it for like a Drown and Lock or whatever, so that's still a pretty good card that you're bringing in.
Yeah.
That you're not going to particularly miss Fatal Push as much, like you could in some situations, but like Drown and Lock, still able to take out creatures. Yeah. Like you were talking about before, it's that 5th Stubborn Denial, possibly, and then it could be the 4th Fatal removal, Push. But this time it could target something bigger than what Fatal Push can target.
Mm-hmm. Especially if the graveyard's loaded up with all the spells that really matter, and they need to kind of push that last threat, and then boom, you have your tool to destroy the creature or counter the spell on the stack. So I think it's fantastic. But I think that's all the time we have today. So thank you for everyone who's listened and everything. And then quick update on some other small things involving casting shadows. We are now on a Discord app. When it comes to Michael Rapp's Shadow Cabal and Ben Jones. They run a fantastic Discord right now. And you can find the link in Michael Rapp's Twitter at Rapacious One, I think. Rapacious One is his Twitter handle. And you can find the Discord link right there. If you guys don't have it, and if you guys are playing Shadow, you're missing out. It's fantastic information. And it's a wealth of information when it comes to the community itself. You can post questions. You can post deck lists. You can go look at other people's question deck lists. You can talk to people who are playing the exact same deck as you. And then they have so many subsections. There's Jund. There's Mardu. There's Grixis Green, 4-color. So whatever you want, they have it. And you can even communicate directly with Ben Jones, Dylan Hovey, Michael Rapp, Zach Craner. These really big, important members of our community, and they're able to, like, you know what, I actually think this card's bad in here. Or I think I would go with this card. So you're able to have actual professional opinions when it comes to it. And then Michael, I think, offers coaching as well if you're interested in asking him for even more Shadow advice. I'm sure you can DM him and talk all about when it comes to coaching and how to do that kind of stuff. So definitely ask those people for help. And like I said, Discord app, it's free too. You don't even have to pay for anything. Just download it and click on that invite that he has in his profile, and you're good to go. And you can communicate directly with us. If you have any questions when it comes to our channel or what you want to do kind of thing. I know I heard someone asking they want a little more of a tips and tricks for beginners type video or type podcast. And we are thinking about doing that in the future because I know there's a lot of podcast people or a lot of people who pick up Grixis Shadow and kind of don't know where to go. And so it'd be kind of cool to have a go-to episode just for those beginners who really need to help pick themselves off the ground and, not that they're on the ground in the first place, but pick themselves up and try to really compete with the deck and everything. So I think that's really cool. And then also the playmats. You guys love that playmat. I know I did. I thought I nearly cried when I saw how beautiful it looked. But we are experimenting with one other design, a different color scheme. So we're going to work on that design. We're going to get it out there on a playmat, and then maybe if all things going well, we will be giving away one of them. So stay tuned for more details on that. We'll definitely announce that on our respective social media, such as Twitter and Reddit. So thank you for everyone who joined us today, and I'll let Jeremy just kind of end it right there.